Children of the Heavenly Father, safely in His bosom gather, nestling bird nor star in heaven, such a refuge e'er was given. God His dawn doth tend and nourish, in His holy courts they flourish. From all evil things He spares them, in His mighty arms He bears them. Neither life nor death shall ever from the Lord His children sever. Unto them His grace He showeth, and their sorrows all He knoweth. Though He giveth or He taketh, God His children ne'er forsaketh. In the loving purpose solely, to preserve them pure and holy.
A reading from the book of Ruth, chapter 3, verses 1 through 18, as found in the Message. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to Ruth,
"My dear daughter, isn't it about time I arranged a good home for you so you can have a happy life? And isn't Boaz our close relative, the one with whose young women you've been working? Maybe it's time to make our move. Tonight is the night of Boaz's barley harvest at the threshing floor. Take a bath, put on some perfume, get all dressed up, and go to the threshing floor. But don't let him know you're there until the party is well underway, and he's had plenty of food and drink. When you see him slipping off to sleep, watch where he lies, and then go there. Lie at his feet to let him know that you're available to him for marriage. Then wait and see what he says. He'll tell you what to do."
"If you say so, I'll do it, just as you have told me."
She went down to the threshing floor and put her mother-in-law's plan into action. Boaz had a good time, eating and drinking his fill. He felt great. Then he went off to get some sleep, lying down at the end of a stack of barley. Ruth quietly followed. She lay down to signal her availability for marriage. In the middle of the night, the man was suddenly startled and sat up. Surprise! This woman asleep at his feet.
"And who are you?"
"I am Ruth, your maiden. Take me under your protecting wing. You are my closest relative, you know, in the circle of covenant redeemers. You do have the right to marry me."
"God bless you, my dear daughter. What a splendid expression of love, and when you could have had your pick of any of the young men around. And now, my dear daughter, don't you worry about a thing. I'll do all you could want or ask. Everybody in town knows what a courageous woman you are, a real prize. You're right, I am a close relative to you, but there is one even closer than I am. So stay the rest of the night. In the morning, if he wants to exercise his customary rights and responsibilities as the closest covenant redeemer, he'll have his chance. But if he isn't interested, as God lives, I'll do it. Now go back to sleep until morning."
Ruth slept at his feet until dawn. Then she got up while it was still dark and wouldn't be recognized. Then Boaz said to himself, "No one must know that Ruth came to the threshing floor." So Boaz said,
"Bring the shawl you're wearing and spread it out."
Ruth spread it out, and he poured it full of barley, 6 measures, and put it on her shoulders. Then she went back to town. When she came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked,
"And how did things go, my dear daughter?"
Ruth told her everything that the man had done for her, adding,
"And he gave me all this barley besides, 6 quarts. He told me, You can't go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.
Sit back. Relax, my dear daughter, until we find out how things turn out. That man, he isn't going to fool around. Mark my words. He'll have everything wrapped up today.
This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. We've been listening to this account in the book of Ruth. This is the third Sunday, the third chapter. We've been hearing about Ruth and Naomi and Boaz and how their life and is unfolding and the customs that they have. For we've been learning about these customs of the people then, which to us can seem a little curious, new, unusual. The customs of grieving women after the deaths of their husbands, how they grieve and for how long they grieve, and how they need to seek shelter of the community. We've been hearing about the customs about how the wider community takes care of those who are left orphaned and widowed and unable to take care with their own means of sustenance for food and shelter. We've been seeing about now this custom, curious as it is, for marriage, and a proposal given for marriage together for husband and wife. Customs, this book is filled with it. And when you read through carefully this book of Ruth, you can learn about another time and another day and a people far away and how they would do things and make life. Customs, we have them ourselves. Others looking from the outside into our own culture and community would find interesting, maybe a bit odd here and there in ways that we have our own customs. But even around our Thanksgiving tables, the customs that we each have are unique to each family, to each setting, the things that we celebrate and what makes for each one of us Thanksgiving. The customs that we have, it kind of marks it and it makes it so it's part of our identity about who we are as families and as communities. How is it that you celebrate Thanksgiving that makes it truly Thanksgiving for you, that says this was a Thanksgiving meal? Just asking. Turkey for anyone on Thanksgiving? Do you put turkey on your plates? Yes, okay. But for others, maybe it's ham. Is there ham out there? At our table, it's turkey and ham. Because Allison, the youngest, doesn't do turkey, so we do ham as well. We make it so that we're all gathered around that table and have just plenty for all. There was something around a table when I was a child that I was surprised to find that it was around other Thanksgiving tables. Because it was that which my mother would make every Thanksgiving. I'm not sure we had it much other time, but she would always make that green bean casserole with the onions on top. I was surprised to find that other families did the same thing. I didn't like it, not at all. I didn't like that casserole with that soup in it or whatever was put inside of that thing. I've come to enjoy it. I've come to grow accustomed. I've come to make it so that that is a part of Thanksgiving. Even the things we're not sure about, even the things we don't totally appreciate or just crave for, it just marks it somehow as this is our Thanksgiving meal around that table. Making the things we're accustomed to and just kind of our just comfort foods that are good for the spirit and the soul and all the way through. I remember one Thanksgiving that was served for the Thanksgiving meal, that which I thought this is really pushing it far now. This is anything but Thanksgiving, so it seemed, because what did we have on our table was duck and venison. Because it was after that hunting time that my dad had gone out hunting, and he decided that year we're going to have the duck and the venison on the table. A little bit strong of a meat for a kid, especially when I was eating it and came up with one of those little bullet pellets from the shotgun in my teeth, and I thought that was a little too real, you know, a little bit too reality about this little bird was once flying around, and we shot it out of the sky. Thanksgiving that year wasn't quite as much of a Thanksgiving as what I was normally accustomed to, and kind of wondered, did we have Thanksgiving or not this year? But I've kind of come to appreciate a wider scope of different traditions and ways to celebrate. Maybe that's what happens as we mature and grow older too in our years, is that we find that there are other ways to celebrate. There are other traditions that are there that are of equal value and blessing. And so when we gather with other friends and family, gathering around different Thanksgiving tables, we discover their traditions are rich for them, and they become so for us. And that circle just kind of grows of our ways to experience the bounty and the blessings that God provides for us and is there for us in all ways. But imagine with me for a moment here, just imagine, play with me a little bit here about different Thanksgiving tables that we've experienced, like this Thanksgiving table. It's a Thanksgiving table that maybe is kind of like fanciful, or one in which it's a little fairy tale-ish, that you just have ideas about what Thanksgiving is this fairy tale of a way that everything comes magically together and beautifully around the table, and everyone is smiling and happy and getting along just beautifully. But then there are other kinds of Thanksgiving tables, like this Thanksgiving table. It was curious to me that people from around this country will come to Las Vegas on Thanksgiving, and that is Thanksgiving for them, a Vegas table around a poker game. I don't know about that. Maybe that's pushing it a little bit too far, whether that's really Thanksgiving or not. But here's another one, a Thanksgiving of a Norman Rockwell. Is that a way that is just nostalgia? In a way that just helps one to feel that's really the heart of Thanksgiving. In a way that the food is perfect, the turkey is just wonderfully roasted, everybody is glowing and smiling. Around that Thanksgiving table, a unity is occurring. But maybe that's just a nostalgic, romantic kind of one. Take a look at this Thanksgiving table. Maybe that's more like, Ma has a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, and we went to the Kentucky Fried Chicken and put it on the table. There's A&W root beer and a Budweiser beer sitting there. Maybe that's your real Thanksgiving table that I remember from family in Wisconsin, that would be exactly so. Gathering around a table just like that, the real kind of real life of Hicksville or rednecks or ways that it's just us hanging out and it's just who we are, just in our own selves. What's that Thanksgiving table that you gather around? Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. You have Thanksgiving in so many different visions and ways to make it happen, to make it so that you know that you're blessed and everybody around your table is blessed as well. Let those Thanksgiving traditions just packed full of meaning for us when we know that we're just provided for everything. You see, Ruth and Naomi needed that place to gather around, to know that there was a provision for them in life, that they had blessing upon blessing given to them. It was a Thanksgiving meal, if you will, that Ruth went to when she was sent to the threshing floor to meet Boaz. You see, it was Naomi who wakes up one day and says, Ruth, today's the day. Our plan must unfold right now. They had been planning for how it would be that Ruth would find a husband, that she would get this husband so that she would be cared for, provided for in her life. So they had been plotting this. They had been getting ready for it. You heard what we read this morning. Maybe it's time to make our move, says Naomi to Ruth. It's time to make the move, Ruth. Go out and find Boaz. So notice what she does. She gets herself cleaned up. She had her monthly bath, you see. And then she puts on her best outfit, perfume, the makeup, the jewelry, and then she goes all decked out to see Boaz at the threshing floor. Curious, isn't it? Why would you get all dressed up to go to where the harvest is happening? But you see, this harvest has come to its fruition. Everything is now coming in. And when the harvest comes in, what do the harvesters and the farmers do but have a festival? Have a celebration, a Thanksgiving celebration, where everybody is getting together and there's food and there's a party and there's dancing and there's just wonderful times and there was drinking and everybody was there just having a fabulous time. And Naomi says to Ruth, you wait until Boaz has had his fill, that he is satisfied in his stomach after the celebration. He's had a few drinks in him, and then he goes to relax and recline there on the threshing floor. That's when you strike. That's when you go to him, and it's almost as though Ruth is to go to Boaz and propose marriage. And it seems as though, why would it be that a woman then would be proposed? Isn't it the man's job, especially then in that day and that time in that culture, that the man would be do the proposing? But it's Ruth who really is the one who says to Boaz, you know, you're my nearest of kin. It's up to you to ask for me in marriage and for us to unite and come together. It was as though Boaz just kind of needed a little nudge there, a little bit of confidence and a little bit of saying, yeah, Boaz, do it. Come on. Just ask her. ask her to marry you. It's about time in your life that you have this wedding, that you come together, that you receive a wife for yourself and a family for yourself. He just maybe needed a little bit of a nudge along the way, Boaz did, to make it so. And Ruth provided that for him. Isn't it time now that you fulfilled your obligation and your duty? It was like that. There was a duty to it. It's what we are supposed to do, to take care with one another. The nearest of kin marries that widow of the brother who has died, and you're to take care with me. Obligation that's there. It seems all legal, the whole thing does, in ways that it is. There's a legal contract that's taking place here. A legal contract that helps to bind them and provide for and take care. But thank the Lord, there's something deeper that's going on. And it's the Lord's working and the Lord's hand. That sometimes we'll gather around our own Thanksgiving tables out of obligation sometimes. Who do we invite? We can't forget about Aunt Sally or Uncle Henry, or we can't forget about cousin so-and-so, and we got to invite them around. Yeah, but I don't know. They never get along with one another. And hey, you remember what happened years back and things? I don't want them at my Thanksgiving table, but we invite out of obligation sometimes, out of duty. We're a family. We gather around these tables. Thanksgiving can sometimes have that resemblance to it, like this obligation that Boaz had to Ruth. And we just do it because that's who we are, family. Family is supposed to gather around tables and to be good with one another, try to be civil. But what if so-and-so says this and that? What do I do? You sit around the table and you gather there and you're just civil with one another. But thank the Lord that there's something deeper happening here, something that saves the day. That which saves the day, so it's beyond just obligation, is what we hear woven throughout this book, is this Hebrew word called hesed. It means kindness, but it means more than just being civil. It means more than just the civility that we should have family around a table, with kinfolk or with friends. It's a hesed, a kindness that has an undergirding of what the Hebrews call loyalty. But loyalty can kind of seem like what Ruth said to Boaz. It's your obligation to marry me. A loyalty that you ought to have for your family just because. This loyalty, though, has a depth to it that's a loyalty that reflects this covenant that we've been talking about, which Ruth shared with Naomi. I promise to always be with you, that your people will be my people and your God will be my God, and nothing, not even death, will separate us. You see, that loyalty that's described there in that covenant that Ruth shares with Naomi is the covenant of God that has a loyalty to it. That is, you can trust me beyond the letter of the law. You can trust me with grace given to you. A grace is how we gather around Thanksgiving tables. A grace that just holds us and covers us and encompasses us. When we are there around Thanksgiving tables, it is this kindness of loyalty that has this covenant of grace that holds us around these tables. However it is that you gather, that no matter what is taking place. What Boaz said to Ruth was, I can't offer this covenant of marriage, not just yet, because there is another who's a nearer relative than I to you. And suddenly the thing started to begin to unravel. Suddenly that great plan that Naomi had and Ruth participates in started to come undone, because all their best laid plans weren't so, because there was someone else that might step in to take Ruth's hand instead of Boaz. Boaz was one who was a provider. He was wealthy. He was respected in the community. It was Ruth's hope and dream that Boaz would ask for her hand. But then it started to come unraveled, like the best laid plans that we might have for Thanksgiving Day. when something happens that wasn't according to plan, and it didn't take place just the way we had hoped. And when things start to unravel, the laments can happen, and that's when sharp words can be given, and that's when it seems as though everything is messed up and everything becomes destroyed over it, and it no longer is the thanksgiving of my hopes, of my dreams, of the way it ought to be, and something is bound to foul it up and to go wrong with any celebration like a Thanksgiving. What do we do with that? What is the next step for that? The saving grace that takes place is when Boaz sends with Ruth back to Naomi these 6 measures of wheat, which are that word for Naomi, of like when you go to somebody's home for a holiday meal and you bring flowers to grace the table. You bring a casserole dish to add to the banquet that's there. It can be done out of, that's just what we do. It's obligation, it's duty. But when it's accompanied with this grace of kindness, a loyalty, a grace-filled covenant that communicates to the other, we are one together. Boaz sends this bouquet of wheat to Naomi, letting her know, my covenant is true. You can count on my word. Trust me in this. However you gather, with whomever you gather on this Thanksgiving time, whether they be there to reach out and touch and hold hands, or they are there at your Thanksgiving table in memory of one you love who cannot be there. They're miles apart, or they've departed from this earth. We know that we are held in what Ruth has been expressing to us about a cloak of protection. You can see this picture of a beautiful painting of Ruth and Naomi. When they began their journey from Moab to Bethlehem, it was this cloak of protection surrounding them. The cloak that billows up over and around these 2 women is much more than a cloak that just simply protects them from the wind or the cold. It is a cloak reminding them that they are within God's wing of protection. The word for cloak and the word for the wing are the same for the Hebrew people, reminding them always that we are lifted up on these eagle wings, reminding them always that God hovers over us and holds us in his embrace like a wing of protection. It reminds us of that eagle who cares for the young by shielding them with a wing and pulling them close in when the storm is heavy. When they launch off to fly and they're not quite able to keep themselves up, it is that parent eagle who comes underneath, and on the wing they are lifted and lifted, that eaglet, to keep them safe, to keep them flying and up until they learn that they can all on their own. It's this cloak of protection that surrounds them, that has this kindness, loyalty, this covenant of grace there. May that covenant of grace, cloak of protection, be around you and your family this Thanksgiving. That no matter what takes place, if it is something where best laid plans begin to unravel and come apart, that what you have with you and those you love around the table is an experience that there is one who's greater than ourselves, greater than our best laid plans, who holds us close, who cares for us and reminds us to care for one another. For Ruth says to Boaz, it is your cloak of protection which I seek. It is the cloak of protection that Boaz takes and gives over to Naomi and pulls her in close on that day and that night in the threshing floor, and pulls her in close to let her know that that cloak of protection is for her, reminding them both of the greater wing of our God, encompassing us always. And when we know that, we can extend grace to all persons, no matter if plans come unraveled. If someone says a word that has an edge to it around a Thanksgiving table, or brings up a memory of you remember when that's humiliating or embarrassing or hurtful, remember the wing of protection. Remember the cloak that is there of God's holy grace upon your family, and extend it one to another. Oh, our Heavenly Father, who protects his children, indeed, and brings them close into his bosom. As we sing this song of marvelous light, envision your Thanksgiving table, that the very light of God is upon that table and with you as you celebrate Thanksgiving. And you are just in his marvelous light all the way through. And everything that happens then can be a reflection of God's grace given to you, holding you through this Thanksgiving. May you indeed be blessed with God's abundance and with this marvelous light. Let us stand and sing.
Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the light, you are the way. I once was fatherless, a stranger with no hope. Your kindness wakened me from my sleep. Your love, it beckons deeply, a call to come and die. By grace now I will come, take this life, take your life. Sin has lost its power, death has lost its sting. From the grave you've risen, victoriously. Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way. Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way. My dead heart now is beating, my deepest stains now clean. Your breath fills up my lungs, now I'm free, now I'm free. My dead heart now is beating, my deepest stains now clean. Your breath fills up my lungs, now I'm free, now I'm free. Sin has lost its power, death has lost its sting. From the grave you've risen, victoriously. Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way. Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way. Lift my hands and spin around, see the light that I have found. Oh, the marvelous light, it's Christ in you. Lift my hands and spin around, see the light that I have found. Oh, the marvelous light, into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way. Into marvelous light I'm running, out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross you are the truth, you are the life, you are the way.
Indeed, we are blessed by our living God, the one who comes to us to let us know, I've got you. I have a hold of you in life, like my cloak, my wing, just surrounding you and loving you and carrying you forward into blessings that then you know you are secure in life, forever loved, forever graced, lifting all of us up out of any darkness we're in and give us a new day and a new chance. And so we go forward from here knowing we're blessed so that we can bless others.